Well, the whole Grand Canyon thing is bananas. Like, there's areas of the Grand Canyon you cannot explore.
You cannot go. You cannot fly over.
Right.
And you can't fly under the rim. Yet when you go to those bad places, suddenly a white plane flies over under the rim, black helicopters show up. I showed on my episode. I show the black helicopters showing up. Like, they do show.
Yeah. Like, they are protecting something.
Something.
It's not as simple as this is a dangerous area, because you can go to any dangerous area.
You go just to the normal tourist area. It's like, be careful. People fall. 2 people a year fall.
Yeah, someone fell recently.
They did?
Yeah, an influencer. Of course, taking a selfie. But the Grand Canyon, there's been these crazy stories of people finding these like Egyptian, these caverns with like Egyptian artwork and hieroglyphics and these stories of artifacts that have been removed from there.
So the story is, it shows up, I believe, in like the Phoenix Gazette. It's 1903 or so. And the explorer is G.E. Kincaid, and he's going down, he's looking for gold deposits or whatever. This is just before Teddy Roosevelt made the Grand Canyon a preserve. He was a naturalist. So he finds these steps that are clearly man-made. He follows the steps up, and there's a cave, and he goes in there, and he describes hieroglyphics that look Egyptian but are not quite. He finds a statue that he describes as like Buddha-like, not Egyptian, not human, but sort of like Buddha, and all these weapons, shields, gold, all sorts of stuff. He keeps going. He finds a deserted city in the caves, and all these tunnels and caverns go everywhere, and he's trying to map everything. He comes out, and he goes back to town, and he gathers together a group that we're going to go find the stuff again. And people are excited about it. And a couple of weeks go by, and everyone's gathered to go on the expedition. He never shows. The expedition goes nowhere, and that's really the last we've heard of it.
Really? And is there any photographs or anything? No.
There never is of this stuff.
Right. Just descriptions?
Just a great story.
Well, the great part of the story is the fact that you actually can't go there. And the idea that there's an area where the military is protecting people from being foolish, that doesn't make any sense.
Nobody asks why.
Right.
Like, nobody asks why. It really bothers me about that story and all of these, whether it's disclosure or whatever. I don't hear anyone asking why. Well, they won't let us. Well, who's they? Right. Someone's in charge of stuff that's not the president.
Right.
Or Congress. So who is it? So... is it possible there's some sort of a government installation down there somewhere? It's all going to be woo-woo conspiracy stuff, or it's real, or G.E. Kincaid found something and someone got to him.
But if G.E. Kincaid found something, why would they want to hide some ancient civilization discovery, particularly in the early 1900s? Like, why? For what reason?
I don't know why Graham Hancock is marginalized now.
Right, but wouldn't you think that there's like less of a grip on that stuff in the 1900s, the early 1900s?
I would think so.
Yeah.
So my guess would be treasure and money. That would be my guess. Is it shows up in the paper, the government goes down there, like, there's a lot of stuff down here. Let's grab it, send it to the Smithsonian, who keeps 99% of the stuff under wraps. They have, a billion items that nobody can see, and then that's the end of it.
Yeah, but what the fuck? Which I would love to know the official reason. See if you can Google. Is there an official reason why you're not allowed to go to certain areas of the Grand Canyon?
They use a VPN there, brother.
The story, I was looking at an article about the original article, and it says that the 2 guys mentioned might not have even existed.
Right.
There's no evidence of them.
G.E. Kincaid?
And another guy named S.A. Jordan.
Oh, so it might be just a story that someone printed, some horseshit?
Yeah, when I was looking into one of these things before, I found something explaining that back in the early 1900s, when newspapers were a really popular thing to read, I don't know if it was like a game or if there was actual prizes people would play or like amongst themselves to try to get fake stories printed. If you could get the craziest story printed, you win like $500 or...
I might be wrong, but I think Jordan was connected to the Smithsonian, at least according to the story.
I pulled this from the Smithsonian debunk, which, I mean, obviously they would if this is the way we're going to go with it, but them debunking this, and they gave 2 links, one to the original 1909 article and one to a 2008 update, and that's where I was pulling that from.
I don't trust the Smithsonian. They're exempt from all kinds of stuff.
Yeah?
Well, there's a law passed not too long ago that if you have Native American artifacts that are important to that culture, especially burial artifacts, they must be returned. Unless you're the Smithsonian, then
They're allowed to hold on to them?
then you can make a case that you don't have to give it back.
How do they have so much power?
It's a government agency.
Smithsonian is a government. Oh, I didn't even know. I thought it was a private agency. So there's no official story as to why this area of the Grand Canyon is off limits.
For your safety,
The
is all
forbidden zone, they call it.
Yeah, that's all I can find.
That's
I'm looking
fucking
into
weird.
that.
That's fucking weird. That this story comes from the very area that's forbidden. That's fucking weird.
I think
What are the odds?
I
you
don't
know?
believe in coincidences, so a lot of these stories come from places you just can't go.
Has anybody tried to hike in?
All the time.
Wear
Or
camo?
raft in
Yeah, did they get busted?
and busted, yeah, and arrested.
Really?
You could find
Fuck,
you could
man.
find online. I wish I knew the names of a team that went up there. That's who found the black helicopters, and I used them in the video, and I credit them. So you can find their videos. They're up there for an hour and a half, trying to find stuff. And what they found up in that forbidden zone is anchored into the ground a giant hook,
Right.
or like a loop.
Yeah.
Like,
I
what
saw
would you
that.
use that for? And that would be to rappel down. That's the only reason that would be there. There's no explanation for what is this. They also found artifacts from that era, from the early 1900s, artifacts that people were there. So it's possible that they rappelled that, like they might have been standing right above that entrance. And there are reverse angles of that rock face that look a little weird. It could be pareidolia, but
What's pareidolia?
pareidolia is the mind's ability to see objects in random noise. You know, it's something we evolved to see predators in the forest. That's why if you see a cloud that looks like an Abraham Lincoln,
Right.
it's not Abraham Lincoln. It's pareidolia. But debunkers will always fall on pareidolia. So like the real believers, they hate that word.
God, that would be. Imagine everything would have to be rewritten. If they found some evidence of a lost civilization with no connection to any known civilization that was advanced, that was living in the Grand Canyon.
Did you ever think about going
To the Grand Canyon?
to go and just be an outlaw and go see?
How would you get in, though? I mean, if they have black helicopters and they're scanning the sky or scanning the ground with some sort of a drone or a plane,
We go in. We live.
are you planning something?
No. Hold on.
What
no.
should we do?
I don't have.
I'm in.
I don't have a contract. All right. So this is it's already dangerous me sitting here, but I got your back.
If I go.
Yeah.
Right.
What's up?
The thing I found about the Egyptians in Ohio was actually from a paper that was written. It's postulating it. I guess they took a lot of the evidence that they had been finding and saying this shows that there might have actually been Egyptians there.
What's from 1937?
That's when the guy was, I think, born. This is 40 years ago.
Oh,
so
wow.
That amulet was brass, apparently, and it was found near Cincinnati. And where I actually think that it might have been trade routes, because there was some stones that have been found in various parts of the world that are from specifically Ohio, because it's like a rainbow shale that was used in like arrowheads and stuff a long, long time ago. Like that area was used to make weapons, like the first, like 12,000 years ago when the first people were kind of in North America. But that area in Ohio also is known as the sandstone capital of the world. And I don't know if that's related to the Egyptians, because that's what the pyramids are made out of, There's tons of sandstone that is very specific to that region.
Yeah.
So
Pyramids made out of sandstone?
I thought so. Yeah,
I've
yeah.
heard this,
There's
yeah.
21, from 1800 to 1980, 21 times the amount of sandstone that made the Great Pyramid was shipped out of Ohio to make various buildings all over the world.
Really?
Most of them in the United States, obviously, but all over the place.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, just weird
This-
facts I found after Graham came
History
through.
of the humans.
We don't know history.
We know some. All
The
right?
only history that we know is the one we go discover on our own time. The one that's presented to us is not history. It's all lies.
Well, it's not all lies.
All of
There's
it.
some lies.
I found that too. I didn't
Lost civilization in Grand Canyon was, Egyptian?
Yeah, the Smithsonian published some stuff in 1909,
Oh, wow.
I guess, that where all this came from. There was an article that got written, and I don't know how much of it they proved or was proven or was just newspaper It's like bait back in the day.
Look at this.
kind of,
Even
but-
more amazing, the artifacts didn't match up to anything on the known record. Rather than appearing to be of Native American origin, as one might expect, the object had distinct Egyptian or Tibetan designs. Could there have been an entire civilization of Egyptians living here? If so, how did they get here? Dun, dun, dun.
It's not that hard. Hop in a boat, man. You got cats that leave Africa and try to come to Spain on these places on a chicken wing.
Yeah.
You know?
It is interesting, right? Like the population of Cuba. Cuba's so insanely diverse, and it's right there. Like, what is the history of that other than the slave routes? Like, what is the history of Cuba? Because Cuba has very distinct African people living there.
The whole Caribbean, all that whole area is has a lot of African roots to it. But that's just a place that was conquered by the Spain, you know, by the Cortezes, you know, those type of people.
What really disturbs me is there's no way to know exactly what happened. It's like you're piecing things together based on artifacts and historical record, things that people wrote down, and journals and logs. And it's,
there's people that have traveled. So, again, I've studied this so long ago, but I remember reading primary source from somebody that traveled with Cristobal Colon, a.k.a. Christopher Columbus. And he was saying very specific things about his accounts when he reached these different places. You know, and he was saying things like, we got to the land and we found Africans. And I remember him specifically saying, so no matter where we go, we find Africans. And he said it as if he was disappointed. And then they started talking about, like, you know, they started talking about their culture and describing their culture. You just got to go look at the people that travel with Cristobal Colon, and there's some firsthand accounts there. And they're very honest about it, you know.
dude, I'm going to look into that now. That's very interesting. I'm going to ask Graham about that too, what he knows about it. He's studied, especially on his latest book, he studied a lot about the various cultures that made it to North America and South America.
Okay. Yeah. It's just very rich in history. Very, very rich in history.
How many of these crashed crafts do you estimate there are that human beings have recovered?
More than 10.
More than 10.
More than 10.
How many of them are in possession of people in the United States?
I meant more than 10 in possession of the United States.
What about worldwide?
Worldwide?
Do we have any data on that?
We have data, but it's classified. There's no way to really talk about it.
But so there's more, though. You
Yeah,
could safely say it's not just the ones in the United States.
Not just the ones in the United States, and these
are they equally distributed?
I actually I don't know for sure in terms of data. I mean, we have our best data, of course, on our own retrievals.
But more
It's
than
hard to
10
say.
retrieved in the United States.
More than 10 retrievals.
What is your take on Bob Lazar?
Well, we looked into the Bob Lazar story, and but only from a certain relatively superficial level. Looked at we found out what his clearance levels supposedly were, and so on, which came back saying it was not high enough to be doing what he says he was doing. On the other hand, it may just simply be, it was better than that, but we didn't have the access to see that. So when I hear his physics descriptions, it's a puzzle. It seems not exactly as I would anticipate might be the technology behind the craft, but I can't absolutely write him off. So it's an enigma, and I don't have any hard data to prove one way or the other. So it's I know you've talked to him. And,
it's a fascinating puzzle.
It is a fascinating puzzle
because that would be the place. S4 would be the place where they would do that kind of work. I mean, if you wanted to do something like that in complete privacy and secrecy, you'd do it in the middle of the Nevada desert, very protected.
That's true, right?
Outside of Area 51.
So even when people that have high clearances go and say, well, tell me about this. What's behind this? Who knows? If it's a special access program, an SAP, it might be, say, no, we're going to tell you that, he didn't do anything of significance here. In fact, he might have done something of significance. There's just no way of telling from the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the actual generator, the thing that powers the craft that Lazar talked about, what was your take on that? This idea that it was element 115, that when it encounters high radiation, it has some sort of an anti-gravitational effect, some warp effect.
Well, there are two aspects. One is, what is the material or mechanisms that generate the effects? And then the other is, are the effects being described reasonable descriptions of the kind of effects you think are associated with such craft? On the element 115, as you know, in the general scientific community, we've seen element 115, but it's very short-lived. So it's hard to evaluate that, and at this point, there's no evidence that's it. But his description of the anti-gravity effects and so on, that's an area that is well described as what you might expect. As it turns out, in that series of 38 papers, one of my own papers that I provided was one called Space-Time Metric Engineering. And when the pilots came to me and said, drops down, takes off, right angle turn at Mach 10, this is way beyond our physics. And I said earlier, I think it's not beyond our physics, beyond our engineering. But what I did on the physics level was all of our electronics that we have here, for example, this microphone, the recording that you're making, and so on, that's all based on electromagnetic kinds of technologies, all of which come out of Maxwell's equations. Maxwell's equations, Clerk Maxwell way back in the 1800s, developed the equations for electromagnetism, and basically any kind of electromagnetic device, you name it, Wi-Fi, whatever, can be traced back to his equations. So what I said to myself was, okay, we have these apparent craft operating with this unbelievable kinds of activity. Is there any way to account for that in our physics? Well, it turns out. So what I did, I took a sheet of paper, and the left-hand side of the paper, I wrote down all the weird effects that have been claimed. Right angle turn at Mach 10. I got close to the craft, and suddenly it wasn't the same size as it seemed to be when I was further away. It was a certain color, but when I got close to it, it was a different color. All these weird things. To me, the weirder the better, because if somebody was just making up a BS story, they want it to sound rational. So you don't come up with things like, well, I got in the craft, 5 minutes went by, I came out, and 2 hours had gone by. I mean, you're just not going to make that up. Then on the right-hand side of the piece of paper, I said, okay, we have Einstein's equations in general relativity, and we use them to talk about black hole mergers or neutron star mergers or whatever. And all these things are massively energetic events. Suppose I could engineer Einstein's equations the way we engineer Maxwell's equations for electromagnetic effects. What would I expect to see? And I find out I got a hand-in-glove match between what was claiming to be observed and, what Einstein's equation, if you could engineer them. Well, why can't we engineer them? Well, what we know today is the energy density required to engineer those equations is just way beyond our ability to do so. So,
can you give me a comparison to what the energy requirements or something like that would be like?
Yeah, people have in fact Alcubierre warp drive. I don't know if you've heard of that, but a Miguel Alcubierre was a researcher in general relativity and kind of a Star Trek fan and so on. And he said, I wonder if we could really have warp drive. And so he used Einstein's equations to say, okay, under what conditions could we do a warp drive? And he actually came up with solutions from out of the equations. Okay, what would it take to drive that? Oh, it would be hundreds of times more than the energy of the sun. I mean,
wow.
Just out of sight energy. So, until we have a new energy source or until there's some back door that we haven't, zeroed in on, it's just really outside of our expertise.
The Book of Enoch is nuts. I
That's
talked
the
to Wes
Giants
Huff about
one.
it.
That's the Giants
It's
one,
not
right?
just the Giants, it's aliens. It's about the Watchers who came down and mated with human beings. Bro, I'm reading it right now.
I know you are. I
It's
already know.
bananas. She told me to read it. And she's like, you have to read this. It's nuts.
And what did Wes Huff say? Did he say this?
Yeah, it's 100% a legitimate text. It's legitimate religious text, but they decided not to include it because it's so nuts and because it goes against what the writings of the Torah.
Right, right.
So, but it was a few rabbis. Just a few rabbis decided.
That nixed
like
it.
if the Book of Enoch was included in the Bible, it changes the whole
Why would the
story of the
rabbis
human
decide
race.
what goes
Back
into the
then
Christian?
they had that kind of power. They just decided that it doesn't get included in the canon. This is a long time ago.
But yeah, I mean, this is like around. Well, who decided the canonized Bible, right? This is like Constantine time, right?
Well, that's for the New Testament, right? And so with the Old Testament, you've got Wes Huff would be the guy to ask
Oh, wait a
all
minute.
these questions.
Enoch was included in the Old
Oh,
Testament.
it's old as fuck.
Oh, okay,
Not only is it old as fuck, when they found it, they also found a version of the Book of Isaiah. This is one of the things that Wes Huff told me that was really fascinating. They found a version of the Book of Isaiah that is verbatim the same as a version of the version of Isaiah that was 1,000 years later, which they thought was the original.
Unbelievable.
That's what's crazy.
Unbelievable.
For 1,000
maintain that.
years, they maintained the exact same story verbatim, writing it down and passing it on. And the Book of Enoch's in there with that. And the Book of Enoch is bananas.
Yeah, I think we might need to do a little deep dive on the Book of Enoch.
The Book of Enoch, it says that these Watchers came down and mated with human beings and created a race of giants called the Nephilim who consumed and destroyed everything in front of them. Gee, that sounds like people.
Yeah.
That sounds a lot like people.
Yeah.
If you got a bunch of little chimps and then you got these tall aliens and they make a fucking 7-foot man, a Viking, who's like chopping off heads and lighting villages on fire and has this unstoppable desire for conquest, that's humans. The Nephilim sounds like humans.
Like, yeah, exactly. So they're not giants. We are the giants. And then what if the other folks...
They might have been giants. Like, it's hard to say.
But what if the other folks were the Neanderthals?
Well,
because there was a time where we were living together, right?
Right. Well, they were here before us, allegedly. Well, the question is, like, where did humans come from?
Yeah.
This is the real question. There's a really interesting show on PBS right now called Human, where this lady goes on this journey of, it's like... She's, what is her degree in? Is she an anthropologist? I believe she's an anthropologist, but, or maybe some sort of biologist, but she goes over the history of the human species. It's very interesting. The migration from across the Bering Land Bridge into North America, when the oldest people started coming here, how they came here. Fascinating stuff. But that's one of those things, like if you think ancient history is filled with horseshit, like ancient human history, like of the humans, that's the woman's name. I don't want to fuck up her name. Ella al-Shamahi. And it's on BBC and PBS. Really good show. I just started watching it. She's a paleontologist, degree in genetics and taxonomy and biodiversity. But they just found recently a human skull that pushes the date of humans back another 500,000 years.
Yeah.
So it's like all they know is what they find in the fossil record, and there's so little fossil record.
Yeah.
And then they keep finding new things.
Yeah.
Like they just found Denisovans in like 2010. They're like, whoa,
What is that?
What's this? Total new branch of the human tree.
It's called
Denisovans.
Denisovans.
Yeah, they
Okay.
found like a bunch of teeth, I think, in Asia, and they're like, what the fuck is this? And then or maybe it was Russia. So there's that. There's the one that they found in China, the big head people.
That's the one I saw.
real recent.
Yeah.
That's real recent. I forget what that one's called. We've done this a million times, but I always forget. But so they're always finding these new versions of humans. So how many of them really were there? But if there's a bunch of science experiments, if aliens are coming down and like, let's try them where they're short, really powerful, and they only eat meat. And that's Neanderthals. Like, stop. This one's not
Too
a
much.
good design.
Yeah.
This is not a good design. We need them a little more frail so they invent things.
Yeah.
Because the brutes don't invent anything.
Yeah, more frontal cortex.
Yeah, the Neanderthals had bigger brains than us. That's what's interesting.
So then what part of our brain was specifically different?
See, we have a very our idea of them is that they were dumb. and they couldn't talk, and that they were brutes. But it doesn't seem like that's true. In fact, it seems like they had art, they definitely had tools, and they had language. And they might have been as smart as us. They were just different. And maybe us being a little weaker is what made us smarter. You know?
Or made us work collectively.
Maybe we're a little more alien, just a touch.
Right.
There's a little too much salt in that stew. Let's add a touch more of us. And, it seems like the hairy, 5'7", 200-pound fucking savages with big eyes that might be able to see at night, because it looks like they might have had night vision. They have huge eyeballs, man.
Right.
The Neanderthal eye socket's way bigger than ours. Their skull's thicker. Their bones are more dense. They might have had night vision, like a dog. You know how dogs, their eyes glow when the headlights hit them? They might have had that same ability.
I mean, I don't know why.
That design's too sketchy.
It's just not
They
working.
can see at night,
Yeah.
and then they go hunting other people. This is too much.
But then we hunted them.
Maybe. We might have just fucked them.
I also heard we fucked them.
Well, I
Yeah,
think we
you had
hunted
that
them and
joke,
we
right?
fucked
You're
them.
like, I got a little bit of, yeah.
One more time with the monkey.
But in terms of like the stories, like, all right, you know when a comic gets off stage and like they think they killed but they bombed?
Right.
Like there could be people telling those stories in the books.
There could be.
Like meaning what their rendition of what happened
Yes.
is in the book, and that is what they truly believed happened. They might not even be delusional. They are
Right.
delusional, but like that's what they saw and that's
Right.
what happened to them.
And history is always written by the winners.
Exactly.
Yeah. My version of the Bible story back in the day, I used to have this bit about Noah's Ark. I was like, the problem with the Bible is people are full of shit, and that story sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it's that simple. It's
Yeah.
like people lie all the time. I've never met any politician or any person who's in charge of anything that's like really important that I would say never lies. So if you're back then where there's zero accountability, zero video, zero anything, they can't even write.
Well, that's where the cross-referencing makes sense, right? It's like that's when you got a bunch of different people saying the same thing or similar things. You start to go, okay, maybe this did happen.
Terrence McKenna once said it best, that science asks of you one miracle. That's the Big Bang.
Yeah.
It is one miracle. It really is kind of like a miracle.
Yeah.
If in the beginning there was nothing, and then God created the earth and the skies. I mean, that's essentially what the Bible is trying to say. They're just doing it in a way.
And the Bible got it right. They got the order right.
Right.
I
think it's based on an understanding that people had achieved. Because if you think about the Bible, right, and if all these people are correct about the original history of sophisticated civilization, if the Randall Carlsons and the Graham Hancocks and the Robert Shocks of the world and the John Anthony West, if they're correct in the timeline of, like, say, the most sophisticated society that we are aware of, which is Africa, if those people that lived in Africa 30,000, 40,000 years ago in Egypt, if they created a society that was infinitely more sophisticated than anything that we had ever seen before, like, how did they do that? Who did that? And what was that like? Like, what the fuck was that like? What was that world like back then? I mean, have you ever really stopped and tried to think and imagine what was that world like back then? I mean,
Well, how about that you have a similar world in Central and South America where they also had built things many thousands of years ago that still, like, how the fuck did you do that?
Yeah. How'd you do that?
Easter Island. How did y'all make those things?
Yeah.
How in the world? And then move them?
Well, I think if those things go down and then people have to rebuild, I think it takes a long time before people figure out what happened. I think it takes a long time. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion that you see in the Bible comes from. Like, God made the earth and the sky and everything in like 6 days, right? And then on the sixth day he rested. Okay. What are they actually saying, though? You're getting things that are translated from an oral history of 1,000 years, and then they're writing it down in Aramaic, they're writing it down in ancient Hebrew, and you're getting it many, 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 many years later, long after.
Diluted and
all
warped
kinds of. Think about what people are willing to do today to the Constitution. Today. With all the information that we have about the dangers of this. Think about what they're trying to do today. Now imagine what you would do if you had the real knowledge of the birth of the solar system, of the development of human beings, and the God energy of the universe, and you tried to translate it over an oral history because there's chaos, because there's no more cities anymore and everyone's dead, and you're just like hunting and gathering as cave people, and you're trying to relay this origin story of mankind. And then it gets written down in parables, and it gets written down in Latin, and it gets translated over the years, and then people try, okay, then they sit down and they look at it many years later and they go, what the fuck were they trying to say? Like, what were they trying to say? Because so much of what they're trying to say, if you're really paying attention, like, it seems like it's kind of laid out like the origins of the universe. If in the beginning there was nothing, like they're talking about the Big Bang. If these scientists all agree, how do they know that?
Then
back
there was
then?
light. That would be the Big Bang.
Why wouldn't they assume back then that God was always around? Why would they assume that God had to make everything? Why would they assume that there was a beginning and an end just because they have a beginning and an end? Is that rational? Why would they assume that? And why did everybody assume that? Maybe because they fucking knew. Maybe because at one point in time, whether it's 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, they had figured a lot of this shit out.
Well, someone figured something out for the pyramids and the way that they were built to be aligned so perfectly with a true north. And
just to be able to construct them. If those people were that smart, why wouldn't we imagine they had an understanding of the birth of the universe? Why wouldn't we imagine that they would have this bizarre understanding of the way morality and good and evil play out with human beings? Maybe they were right. Maybe they were right, but it all just got fucked up over the thousands of years after asteroid impacts and the thousands of years of the destruction of the advanced civilizations and the world going back into chaos and then slowly rebuilding. And you're rebuilding with these ancient texts that you find in clay pots in Qumran. And you ever seen when they translate like the Dead Sea Scrolls and they lay them out and they have to try to figure out which pieces go with which scroll, and they do it based on DNA. All this DNA is from this cow, so let's take this scroll from this cow skin and put it together and try to read what the fuck they said. It's incredible, but it makes sense. It makes sense if you buy into the idea that there's been a restart of civilization, and then you go back and say, okay, what is the history of the Bible? Like, how old is it? What's the oldest version? Like, what's the oldest version of the stories?
Version. Like, who knows?
Right, who knows? Version. Right. What was the original? Like, you're playing a game of Telegram, right, or telephone with over 1,000 years.
Yeah.
With who knows how many people. But if we've seen what the Egyptian people were able to build, what was that like? How sophisticated were they? And maybe what we're getting at in the Bible is just the longest game of telephone of a true story. It's just all kind of gumbled up in stories, and God's testing you and all this thing about, God telling this guy to kill his kid. Mate, it's just a little screwed up. But it's showing you that there are evil forces at play, and there are temptations, and you must resist
lessons
those.
in a story that you can understand.
Exactly.
And that's
but at
why
the heart of
7
it, there's
days,
some truth to it.
Because what is a day to God?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Is that a billion years?
Yeah.
A million years?
100 billion?
Who knows?
Who fucking knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
But it's presented in a way that you can digest it.
This is kind of crazy. We didn't know they could do that back then.
Well, before coming out here, I asked ChatGPT, how old are some of the stories written down in the text in the Hebrew Bible? And at least according to ChatGPT, it's 10,000 years ago. So
oh my God,
something may have happened at that time. That
makes sense.
Yeah, that's a very interesting finding. Oh, Sodom and Gomorrah. That's a great story. I'm working on this translation of the Hebrew Bible. I've got a Substack now. I've been putting out things every week, a chapter a week.
Yeah.
On my translation of the Bible, it's like 1,000 pages right now of commentary about the language and the grammar. The meaning, what's called the plain meaning of the text. Like there was a Noah with 3 sons and went on the ark. Yeah, so that's like my big project, but I'd like to do a smaller one about Sodom and Gomorrah and the figure of Lot. I think that's a really incredible story. I've spent about maybe 2 to 3 weeks looking at that. Lot, his virgin daughters, the men circling his house. They're asking to know him. He ends up, in a cave with his 2 virgin daughters. They get him drunk, and he sleeps with them. Or, they lie with him anyway. Yeah, and out come 2 kids at a certain point, and they become very important. Later on, they're the beginning of the Messianic line. So it's a very intricate, tale with very. I think you can make some cool conversations between some of the main personages in the narrative. There was a book called The Red Tent.
Can I ask you about the lot? Like how old was that story?
Wow, that must be. Well, it's an explanation of Sodom and Gomorrah, which is around the Dead Sea. There was a conflagration of some sort there. Have any of your guests spoken about Sodom? What actually happened around the Dead Sea? It was quite catastrophic.
Well, tell us.
Well, the story of Lot. Yeah, I mean there was fire and sulfur pouring down on Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah, it was the end of the plain. Yeah, so that's the southern part of the Dead Sea. It is a Dead Sea because of its high salt concentrations. It was kind of closed off from the coast. So it's at least a description of what took place.
What do you think it's describing?
Well, I mean, my perspective is
a volcano.
It actually happened. Yeah, but people think a volcano. It's some kind of volcanic activity.
It totally sounds like a volcano, right? And we know that there's been a bunch of those that have almost wiped people out entirely at certain points. The Toba volcano, that one?
No.
We got down to, I think we've looked this up before, but I want to say they think we might have gotten down to just a few thousand people.
On the whole planet.
Like 70,000 years ago. 70,000 years ago, there was a massive supervolcano that went off, and it, plunged the Earth probably into nuclear winter. And they think that our genetic line entirely of the human race on Earth came from this few thousand survivors.
Joe, can we take a
yes.
a break?
You gotta pee?
Yeah.
Yes. We'll be right back, folks.
Seriously.
We're back.
Yeah, so we were talking about the alternative.
Yes. Explain
universe.
what you mean by that. Like that these things are happening in an alternative dimension.
Right. Yeah, I think they're happening in an alternative dimension. Like when you smoke DMT, you return to the same place each time. So there seems to be some reality, some DMT world that people enter into. And it's one of my volunteers, one of the subjects in the DMT research. He got a big dose one day, and then a few months later, he got another big dose. And he said that it was very interesting. He said things have just continued apace since his first exposure and his first entrance into that state, and things had gone on in the meantime, and he re-entered that world. So in that way, there's in that same manner, the world of the Hebrew Bible early on, Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, Noah, the Tower of Babel, all that took place at some different level of reality, which gradually made its way into ours. And once it made its way into ours, there's the archaeological evidence, the first temple, second temple, and so on. So there is a transition between, our world and that world kind of merged. But in the beginning, it was an alternative dimension. It's the same God, I think, but different dimensions.
So, is this your own personal conclusion?
Yeah. Well, when I was on the show last time, you're asking if I believe those things took place, and my answer then was I take it as if it were true,
right?
And then I started to think, how I would do that, like in what world would that be true? It'd be a different world,
right? I feel like I've always believed that they were trying to record something. I just didn't always trust that human beings were completely honest with their recollection of events. So that there's something that they were trying to write down. But was it really coming from God? Are these accurate events? What exactly happened with Noah and the ark? Like what really happened?
Well, 3 stories. Three levels. Mm-hmm. 2 of each, then 7 if one pair or 7 pairs of birds. Well, of every living thing.
Yeah, but like how's he feeding them? Animals eat other animals. The whole thing's nuts. You would need a lot more rabbits. You need so many animals to keep just the lions alive.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. How's he getting them all from all over the world into his stupid boat?
Yeah.
There's so many things that are wrong.
Yeah.
But the story of him being told that some shit is about to go down, and you probably should, find some way to restart your version of civilization somewhere. There's probably multiple like the flood myth that we, whatever you want to call it, the stories of the flood that you get from Epic of Gilgamesh, that you get from Noah. It's not just those. There's many different cultures all throughout history have a flood story, right? So it's probably likely that some crazy shit went down.
There may have been, there most likely was a flood. So what do you learn from it? Like how do you do better, or on what basis do you rebuild? So I think there's different models. The biblical one is interesting because it's lineage, from Adam to Noah,
right,
to Abraham, Isaac and Jacob and the tribes, and now.
So when you talk about things happening in an alternative dimension, like, is that what you think, like, the birth of mankind is as well, like Adam and Eve?
Well, I mean...
Pull this microphone up.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It just has an impact.
Yeah. The creation story. Man was created on the sixth day.
Right.
Along with mammals. Yeah, it's a cool story. It's, stages. People say, well, 7 days, that's unlikely. Like that creation took place 7 times 24, I don't know, 148. Something like that. 148 hours, 168 hours, the whole world was created. But it's broken into stages, 7 stages. Which is one of the translations of the word that is usually translated day. It could also mean stage. It's the word yom. It could mean either a day, a period of time, a stage. So that's that's the answer that makes sense to me about the 7-day story of creation. Yeah. So man was created on the 6th day, and then was placed in the Garden of Eden, and those events took place. The stories themselves are just they're written down, and so people have been studying them for thousands of years.
Who do you think Lilith was?
No mention of Lilith in the Bible.
Really?
Yeah.
Where's the story of Lilith emerge?
Well, it comes from what's called midrash.
What's that?
It comes from a root, darash. It means to, explicate, to expand upon, to investigate. So what happened after Adam and Eve sinned? Did they have sex again? And they do have Cain and Abel and the ensuing stories. And then there's a third son, Shet, who is the inheritor of Adam's of his traits, his good traits and bad traits. He's like God as well. So there's a distinct lineage that is spelled out. Lilith was a demon. That she slept with Adam after the sin of eating from the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. So there's a story that built up around the biblical story that they were separated. Adam and Eve were separated for a long period. And so who was Adam sleeping with? Well, it was expanded in the midrash that there was a demoness named Lilith who slept with Adam for a couple hundred years. And then Adam and Eve reconciled.
Whoa.
Yeah. So so Lilith is she doesn't appear in the text of the Hebrew Bible as such. So nobody knows. There's a mythology that's grown around Lilith as well. Well, isn't there some festival, some music festival called the Lilith Festival?
Lilith Fair.
Yeah. That's named after the spirit or the demoness who's.
You sure it wasn't like a lady named Lilith that she came up with it? Are we sure?
It was her neighbor, Lilith Smith.
You've done an amazing job in this book of trying to boil it down for dummies like me, but it's hard. It is a complicated and insanely nuanced subject.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it like this many worlds theory, for one example. The just the possibility that there's explain that.
Sure.
Explain for people that don't understand what quantum mechanics even means. Give them just a little bit of that, and then explain many worlds theory.
Yeah, good. This is what I'm here to do. So,
thank you.
An electron. Take an electron. Quantum mechanics should apply to the entire universe, but it becomes unmistakable when you look at little tiny things, right? So we always are talking about electrons or atoms and so forth. An electron has a position, and well, sorry, let me not even say that. Even that was wrong. It's just so hard to correctly talk about quantum mechanics, right? If you were Isaac Newton, before there was quantum mechanics, there was classical mechanics. And basically, quantum mechanics and classical mechanics are the only two big frameworks that have ever existed in physics. Classical mechanics was so good that everyone thought that was just right, and it was all a matter of filling the details until quantum mechanics came along and changed things. In classical mechanics, an electron is a point. It has a position, a location in space, and it has a velocity. It's moving somewhere. And from that, you can predict what's going to happen. Okay? Quantum mechanics says, no. The electron has a wave function. So there's a wave. Sometimes you hear this debate about are things like electrons and photons particles or waves. The answer is that they are waves. And the wave function has this weird property that when you're not looking at it, it's a wave, it's all spread out, or it's localized somewhere, but it obeys an equation, the Schrodinger equation. So far, so good, just like regular physics. There's a thing, the wave function, it obeys an equation, the Schrodinger equation. You can predict what's going to happen next. But the weird thing about quantum mechanics is that there's a whole separate set of rules for what happens when you look at the thing, when you observe it, when you measure it.
That's where things get squirrely with people describing it, right?
Yes.
And that's where they want to go woo-woo on you.
It's an opening to be woo-woo, right? When you say, what do you mean observe something? Does it have to be a conscious being? Can it be a video camera? That's just weird, right?
Is it the act of measuring that changes things?
Well, this is the puzzle, okay? This is what is called the measurement problem of quantum mechanics, that the rules we teach our students at Caltech or anywhere else when we teach them quantum mechanics in their sophomore year of college, the rules say when a system is observed, when it is measured, its state, its wave function, changes dramatically, suddenly, and unpredictably.
Now, let me ask you this. How do we know this based on if you're measuring it and it changes? How do we know? Because we didn't measure it before. What observations are we making that we understand the state of it before it's measured without measuring it?
Good. There's a couple of ways. So let me make things even simpler. Forget about where the electron is located and think about the electron is spinning. Right? Okay. The electron is spinning just like the Earth spins. It's really exactly like that. It's like a little spinning top, except when you measure the spin, you can sort of send the electron through a magnetic field and it will get deflected either up or down, depending on whether it's spin up or spin down. You only ever get one of two answers. It's either going up or going down. It's nowhere in between. This is an empirical measured fact, okay? So that's a part of quantum mechanics. That's the quantum fact, that there's discrete set of possible answers to this question. Is it spinning clockwise or counterclockwise? Yes or no. It's just those two possibilities, nowhere in between. So if you have a magnetic field that is oriented vertically, send your electron through it, it gets deflected up, you say, oh, it's spin up. So now I've measured its spin. Now I know what its state is. If I send it through another magnetic field or oriented vertically, it will always be deflected up every single time. We know what it is. We're going to measure it. Measuring it in this case doesn't change it. It's in exactly that state. We know it, okay? Now let's send it through a magnetic field that is oriented horizontally. So it's going to be deflected either right or left. We know exactly what state it's in. It's spinning this way. But when you send it through that magnetic field that's oriented horizontally, it gets deflected left or right 50-50, unpredictably. There's no way we can predict it. And then once it is, So, okay, now it's been spinning up. You measured its spin left, let's say. Send it through another magnet that is going vertically. And now it's 50-50 again. It could be spin up or spin down. So somehow, even though we knew exactly what state it was in, we couldn't predict what would happen next. That is part of quantum mechanics.
So the act of sending it through these things where it makes it vertical or horizontal, what is happening to it when it's going through these things?
So in quantum mechanics, what we say is that it's not that we don't know whether the electron is spinning clockwise or counterclockwise. It can be in a superposition of both. That's just the spin version of the position of the electron can be spread out in a wave, right? It's truly not just that we are lacking some knowledge. It's that the knowledge really isn't there. And again, this is how we teach quantum mechanics in textbooks. And then I'm going to correct it because Many Worlds is much better. But This is the standard textbook version. There's a wave function. The wave function for a spin is it's either up or down or some combination. And then there's a rule that says when you measure the spin, you only get up or down. You don't see the wave function. Just like the cloud that you have for the electron's position, when you look at it, you see it at a location. So another way to make the same argument is take a little piece of, I have a nice little image of this when I give talks, a little piece of uranium. So it's a radioactive little chunk of metal, and you put it in a bubble chamber. So it is emitting radioactive particles, and you detect the particles. You can see a little streak of motion when the particle leaves the uranium, okay? Well, like I said, when you're not looking at it, this electron is supposed to obey an equation, the Schrödinger equation. And you can ask what the prediction is when a radioactive nucleus decays and gives off an electron. What is its wave function going to do? What is the wave function of the electron going to be? And the answer is it goes off in a spherical wave. It goes off in all directions at once.
Evenly.
Yeah. All directions evenly. But you never see that.
Is that roughly
always
based
see a
on
line.
the shape of the piece of uranium? Does it vary?
No, because the electron gets from one individual nucleus of an atom, right? So what the uranium is doing doesn't matter. It's just that one atom matters. And the easiest thing for the electron to do is just to go out in a sphere. It doesn't have to. It can go out in higher energy states. But the point is, it's not going out in a straight line. But when you look at it, you see a straight line, right? That's the fundamental mystery of quantum mechanics, that how we describe the thing when we're not looking at it is different than what we see when we look at it.
So when you're in pursuit of an understanding, a deeper understanding of quantum mechanics, when you're thinking about people from the 1900s that are just sort of basically getting the first steps going to understand this stuff, when you're talking about this lack of funding and the lack of encouragement for people to pursue quantum mechanics, you strongly feel like there are answers to these questions.
Yeah, that's right.
That we just need better tools and a better understanding, better equations, more time.
Yeah, me and Einstein think this, right? So Einstein is one of the secret heroes of the book because he has this reputation as someone who just couldn't quite accept quantum mechanics. The title, Something Deeply Hidden, is a quote from Einstein when he was talking about when he was a kid and he had a compass, right? And he was given his first magnetic compass and he could rotate it this way and that way and it always pointed north. And you and I would go, that's cool. But he was Einstein. He's like, wow, this is amazing. Why? How does it know where north is, right? And he said there must be something deeply hidden that explains why it's doing this mysterious thing. And he felt the same way about quantum mechanics, that we gave these set of rules, which are called the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics. One set of rules for when you're looking at it, one set of rules for when you're not. And Einstein was like, oh, come on. Clearly, this is not the final answer to the nature of reality, right? He wanted to know God's thoughts. He's like, I want to know everything. We're not done yet. There must be more going on. And so Many Worlds is one of the proposed answers to what could be going on. It's not the only one. There's alternatives, but it's definitely my favorite. It's definitely the easiest one to write down. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so hit us with this many worlds theory.
Okay, so think about this electron. You say that it could be either spin up or spin down. It's a combination of both. That's its wave function. You measure it, you only ever see spin up or spin down. So Copenhagen says that's because the wave function suddenly changed, snapped into place when you observed it. Don't ask me what it means to observe something. That's not what Copenhagen lets you ask.
Okay.
Many Worlds says what you're missing is two things. Number one, you're a quantum system. You're obeying the rules of quantum mechanics. You're made of atoms and electrons and so forth. You have a wave function too, okay? So you're secretly treating yourself as a classical thing when you make that measurement, but you really should be treating yourself quantum mechanically, right? That's one thing. And the other thing is something that Einstein invented, namely called entanglement. When quantum mechanics says there's a wave function for a system, it doesn't say there's a separate wave function for every particle, right? It says that there's only one wave function for the whole universe. So the way I like to say it is, imagine two particles come in and bounce off of each other. Either one has a wave function and it's, unpredictable exactly what angle it's going to go off at. So both of the particles that go off, you don't know where they're going. But because momentum is conserved, if they came in at equal velocities, they'll go out at equal velocities and in opposite directions. If you measure one, then you know where the other one is going, right? That's entanglement. The observed state of one system can be related to the observed state of another system. So those are the two ingredients. You're a quantum system, and quantum systems can be entangled with each other. So Hugh Everett, who was a graduate student when he invented this idea in the 1950s, said, look, when you measure that electron, what happens physically? Like, forget about you're a person, you're conscious, all of that BS. Like, you're a physical system, you obey the Schrödinger equation. You are a quantum mechanical system, you obey the laws of physics. So you look at the electron, your wave function changes. It used to be you're just a person doing whatever you do, but then after you look at the electron, you become entangled with it. And it splits. So there is one part of the wave function that says the electron was spinning clockwise and you measured it spinning clockwise. And there's another part of the wave function that says the electron was spinning counterclockwise and you saw it spinning counterclockwise. Now, everybody knows this. Like that far, it's not controversial at all. That's clearly the prediction of the equations of quantum mechanics. But everyone else said, well, that means that I'm some weird combination of I saw it spinning one way and I saw it spinning the other way, but I've never felt that way. When I look at real electrons, I see them one way or the other. That can't be right. That can't be the final answer. The wave function must somehow collapse. And Everett said, no, what you're missing is there's now two separate worlds. Both of those part of the wave function are real, but they're different worlds. They will never interact with each other again. What happens in one part of the wave function will not affect what happens in the other part. So now there's a version of you that saw the electron spinning clockwise, and there's another version of you that saw it spinning counterclockwise. And that's just taking seriously the prediction of quantum mechanics. It's not adding any extra stuff, any extra worlds, anything like that.
That is the part where my brain broke.
All right.
The idea that there's a you that observes it going clockwise and a you that observes it going in a different direction, like that is so hard to understand. Do you apply this in your regular life? Like, do you think, like when you go home and you say hi to your wife and you open up the refrigerator, do you think of yourself as this quantum being that's existing in this super state?
So, I mean, there's a couple of answers to that. One is, sure, if I think about it, like I really do believe it. I have a chapter in the book, which my editor resisted at first, but then he let me get away with it, which is a dialogue between a young philosopher and her father, who is a physicist. And the father is skeptical about all this philosophical nonsense, and she tries to explain how many worlds works to him. And at the end, his last question is, do you really believe this? Are you really taking this seriously? And look, that's a perfectly good question. It's a very respectable question because it is many worlds. It's not crazy or weird or bizarre, but it's certainly very, very far away from our everyday experience, right? So what it's asking you to do is to say, I have these equations. They are really, really good at fitting what I do observe in the world and making predictions. I can build the Large Hadron Collider, et cetera. I will take them seriously even for things that I can't directly observe, because they're the best equations I have, right? Until a better set of equations come along, I will believe these equations. And the implication of that is, there's a whole bunch of worlds, like a huge number, like a real, humongously, unimaginably big number, maybe an infinite number, maybe finite, we don't know, of different copies of you, and they're being created all the time. The good news is that it doesn't really affect how you go through your life. It doesn't really imply that you should behave any differently than you would if you just lived in one world.
But do you think of each choice that you make possibly changing everything about the world that you exist in? How are you looking at it? You know what I'm saying? Because you are a guy who probably understands it as good as anybody that's alive. So as weird as this stuff sounds, to me it sounds like it's almost impossible for me to comprehend. So I'm trying to filter it through your understanding of it.
Well, I think that...
He's taking his jacket off. We're getting serious.
I know. It's getting hot in here. Like, physics is heating us up. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how to say it the best. It doesn't change who you are. It's certainly not true that you making a decision is what branches the wave function of the universe. I guess that's the right thing to say.
Good, because I want to stop all woo.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Before it happens.
Everyone, believe me,
brakes.
The joke about how certain political choices imply that we're living in the wrong branch of the wave function has been made many, many times, right? But
okay.
It's not that your choices create different universes. Different universes get created, and maybe you're different in them by a little bit. In fact, I like to point out there is an app you can download if you have an iPhone called Universe Splitter, which will branch the wave function of the universe for you. And then if you agree ahead of time to do one thing in one branch and another thing in another branch, then there will be multiple copies of you who are living different lives. And then you can deal with that and your therapist however you like.
But what is the application exactly doing?
What it's doing is basically a version of measuring the spin of
It's called Universe Splitter?
Universe Splitter. It's only for iPhones.
I'm going to grab this right now.
But,
sorry, Android people.
Yeah, sorry. It's not even a web page. It's only an app. There's equivalent web pages. But.
Okay, I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah, and what you can do, basically it sends a signal to a lab that coincidentally is located in Geneva, Switzerland, but has nothing to do with the Higgs boson or anything like that. They send a single photon down a pipe to what's called a beam splitter. So the wave function of the photon goes 50-50. It gets sent left. It gets sent right. And if you agree, and so then it sends back whether you ended up in the branch of the wave function where it went left or where it went. There you go. 199. Come on.
Yeah.
The power of changing the universe is in your hands.
I downloaded it.
Good.
I got it. I paid for it. I got it right here.
Yeah.
All right.
So if you have any tough choices, you can type in, I want to have pizza or I want to have Chinese food for dinner tonight.
Well, it says in one universe I will take a chance. In the other one I will play it safe.
Yeah, but you can correct those. You can fill in whatever you want.
Really?
Yeah, that's the good part.
But what is happening with this
I will
app?
ask her to marry me. I will not ask her to marry me.
Is
right?
this
I will accept this job. I will go somewhere else.
Equivalent of a quantum fortune cookie?
Yeah. But
Yes.
except that all possible fortunes are obtained in different universes. The bad news is you can't ever find out how things went in the other universe. You can't talk to the different universes.
That's the problem, right?
Yeah, that's
so
the problem,
people will be paralyzed by analysis.
That's why you should act the same as if you just lived in one universe, because you can never talk to the people in the other ones.
So, but now let's hit the brakes on the woo again.
Yeah.
Because people would like to believe that there are there an infinite number of yous existing at the exact same time, making various choices which send you off in different directions?
So, number one, we don't know if it's infinite number or just really big, but there's certainly a really, really big number. It's big enough to be, big enough for whatever you want. But it's not everything. The theory does not say everything happens somewhere, right? The theory says the Schrodinger equation is obeyed. There's an equation that is obeyed. So electrons will never convert into protons because electrons are negatively charged and protons are positively charged. And nowhere in the Schrodinger equation can you violate the conservation of charge, right? So there's plenty of things that don't happen, but then there are plenty of things that do happen. And some things are more likely than others for you to experience. So again, it's sort of it's a mind-bendy thing, but it's a straightforward prediction of the equations, and it doesn't affect our lives. There's no rule that says, to be a moral person, to be a good utilitarian and make the world happy, knowing that the wave function is branching into multiple copies, I should act differently somehow. It's exactly the same as it would be in the ordinary world.
So, you are the ordinary world, no matter how many copies of you there are, or how many versions of you there are.
There's nothing. So when all these copies are being made, there's no essence of you that is traveling through one of the copies, right? Like all of these people are separate people. So I use the analogy, it's like identical twins. They were the same zygote or whatever, and now they're different people, okay? So that's the same thing. Like you're you now, and if you hit the button and branch the wave function, there'll be two different people, both of whom used to be you, but they're not the same person anymore because different things happen to them.
Now, when people think about the concept of quantum mechanics and the way you're talking about it, describing things in the micro and the macro, you think of your existence itself very similar, in a very similar manner, the way you think of electrons, the way you think of things being quantum, is that you are a combination of all these quantum things.
Yeah.
So you don't operate in some sort of static state that's very like here and now and carbon, and you can put it on a scale and it'll never change. There's constant versions of you.
Yeah, it's kind of like a whooshing where, you know, more and more versions of you are being created all the time. And it's an interesting thing because even the best trained physicists sort of think intuitively classically. Like, look, here's a table, there's a bottle, right?
You have
and,
to.
You have
Red
to.
light comes, hit the brakes.
And this is how we evolved, right?
Yes.
This is how our brains work, right? And like I said, you know, many worlds is one respectable version of quantum mechanics. There are other respectable versions, more respectable than the textbook presentation. But they all the other ones somehow lean on our classical experience. And the textbook version certainly does. It says, like, you're a classical person observing a quantum mechanical system and so forth. And Everett, when he was a graduate student, you know, he had arguments across the ocean with people in Copenhagen, you know, who tried to push their way forward. And he's like, why do you get to be classical and the electron has to be quantum? Like, why aren't you quantum? Like, why isn't everything, what's so special about you, really?
Right.
And he was trying to think of the quantum mechanics of the whole universe, right? Where he's not a separate observer outside because he's doing the whole universe all at once. And so everything had to be quantum. And I think that that's another thing that is pushing us to appreciate the foundations of quantum mechanics a little bit more, is that we're trying to understand quantum gravity. We're trying to understand quantum cosmology, the universe all at once, obeying the rules of quantum mechanics. And the conventional Copenhagen theory is just not up to it.
But yeah, man, just sitting with him makes me contemplate these things, and for me, obviously because of my worldview being shaped by Scripture, it makes me go to Scripture and bounce these questions off of the Scriptures, you know, and even it. I think it was powerful too because, you know, I'm sitting with a man who's important to me, who is bearing this burden of death. And by the way, he bore it well. It was amazing to me that I could go and sit with him and he would talk to me and take time to spend with me, even in the midst of this terrible process that he was going through. I told him, I said, you could have just laid there on this bed and not said a word to anybody and nobody would have blamed you. You know, it's scary. He couldn't sit still. You know, and because he was in so much pain. It's daggone cancer's rough, man.
Pancreatic is a bad
Yeah,
one.
it's rough. But then, you know, he had these same questions that I'm thinking, like, why does this have to happen? You know, and then for me then to have to go and search the Scriptures and then come to him with the Scriptures and share the Scriptures with him to, you know, give him some of the answers that he had. You know, it's like I would read a Scripture to him and he would say, because again, Mr. Don had a strong faith in the message of what we call the gospel, but he didn't know all the other stuff because he couldn't read.
Right.
So I would read a Scripture to him and then he would say, read another one. Read another one. And it was the wildest thing, dude. I've never seen it. I've never seen anything like it before. I've been following the Lord Jesus for 13 years now. I was reading these words off of the page, not even explaining them to him. I was just reading him these Scriptures, and they were manifesting like power in him. Like you could see, you witnessed a change in his expression and his attitude. It was like these words I'm reading are manifesting power and hope and like literal energy. Like I would come over and read the Scriptures to him, and he would been in bed for the last 4 days, wouldn't get up for anybody. I'd read the Scriptures to him, and then next thing you know, we'd be out on the porch. Like he'd get out of bed and we'd go walk out on the porch. I'd have to help him walk, right? And his wife kept saying, you're the best thing for him right now. I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's not my presence. For somehow I'm reading him from these scriptures, and it's like manifesting some sort of power and hope in him. And it like would give him energy in some way. And I can't explain. I've never seen it happen like I've never witnessed that before, you know?
Well, it's probably even more profound because he can't read, so you're reading it to him.
Dude.
Right?
Dude, it was wild, man. Like, and I would read these scriptures to him, Joe, and he would say, yeah, I understand that now. And like, we're reading complex things. Like, we're reading about the resurrection, like the bodily resurrection of all the saints at the second coming of Christ. And, you know, he asked me, one of the questions he asked me, has anybody ever really explained to you what happens when we leave here? You know, because he's wondering these things. Like, I'm about to depart this tent, buddy. What's about to happen? And I'm like, well, the only answer I can give you, Mr. Don, has got to come from these scriptures. And and I would read these complex scriptures to him, 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and 2 Corinthians chapter 5, and he would it would make sense to him in his mind more than my mind could comprehend the truth of what I was reading. Mm. Like, that was what was wild. It was like
of that stage in his life
this
where he's
veil,
taking it in.
This veil between this realm and the next realm was getting thin. And he was taking in the truth of this word and processing it logically at a level that I can't process it, because this veil for us is still so thin, unless you hit that DMT, right? We can talk about that later. But right, yeah. And so I'm witnessing, it was wild, dude. And two, like, crazy things happen. Like, when I'd sit with him, like, every, couple hours, I'd get up and go check in with his wife or something. And we had a camera in the room with him. And we could watch what he was doing. And when I would walk out of the room, you give it a few minutes and you would see him start to look above him. And he would be reaching like this for stuff above him. And, like, we didn't know what he was doing. We never even asked him. I wish I would have asked him, like, Mr. Don, what are you seeing? Like, what are you reaching for? Well, then back when I would come back in the room with him, he would stop doing it. And then toward the end there, he had a stroke. He was paralyzed. His whole left side of his body was paralyzed. And so he was just, he couldn't sit up or do anything. And then finally, at the very end, when he passed away, he literally sits up erect out of his hospital bed, reaches both of his hands straight up like this, and then lays back down and departs the tent.
Whoa.
So I started researching this. What the crap is going on here?
I wish you asked him what he was reaching for.
You watch. I found this hospice nurse on Instagram. I don't remember her name, but she's like posting all these videos of people doing this exact thing. They're reaching for stuff, and she's a hospice nurse.
Did
right?
you save it? Do you have it on your phone?
I don't have it. I don't remember. She's got a lot of following. She's got a big following. Just look up
Jamie will probably find
hospice nurse on Instagram or whatever. But she posts all these videos of these people.
Is this her? Oh, they're reaching.
They're like calling out. I don't know if that's not her, but this is another one. That's not the one I watch.
Calling it a death reach.
It's a very common thing, and they're calling out a lot of times the names of loved ones that have passed before them. Whoa. They're seeing something, like they're seeing into the other realm. Oh, it's that lady on the far right over there. That's the one I watch. She's a little crazy, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you, she puts out some wild stuff, man. This is common stuff, man.
What's her name, Jamie? It says below, hospice nurse Penny.
before their death, when they're able to tell us what they're seeing, when they're able to tell us about these visions, they're almost always above them or up in the corner of the room. But sometimes as they get closer to the end of life and they're no longer able to communicate, we start seeing them reach into the air. So I'm convinced that when they are reaching into the air, they are reaching towards those people who they love, who have died before them.
This woman's not a believer, and as far as I know, I don't know what her, how her worldview is on in terms of what happens after this. But she's just sitting here showing you, saying, "Hey, this happens.
Yeah,
we can't figure out why. We can't figure out what's going on." Obviously, for me, when I see that happening, when Mr. Don sits up in the bed, even though he's literally paralyzed by a stroke. He sits, it's an impossibility. He sits up in his bed and reaches both hands in the air and then lays down and departs the tent. What do I have to believe that, like, his transportation had arrived. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to witness that, how does that not, like, strengthen?
Yeah.
You're witnessing something that's tangible. It's like, how does that not strengthen at least your faith that there is something coming after this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
there's so many stories. And the thing is, people have this arrogant assumption, and this is a lot of based on academics and science, and this belief that we have all the answers to reality, when we don't even really understand consciousness. We don't. Consciousness is a massive mystery. So this idea that we've got it solved, and when I hear people say, when you die, that's it, it's over. Like, how do you know? You're just saying this. You're just saying this. That is as much of a belief system as any religion. This belief in something that you have no evidence of whatsoever, but there's so many anecdotal stories of people with near-death experiences, including Sebastian Junger. Do you know who he is?
I've heard the name.
Brilliant journalist. He a great author. He's written some incredible books. He did Restrepo, right? Documentary about the war, and he's just an amazing, interesting, very, very intelligent guy. And the last time he was on the podcast, he was telling us a story about he had a medical emergency, some sort of it was like an artery burst, right, Jamie? Yeah. Something inside of his abdomen, and he was bleeding out on the inside, and he was dying. And he got to the hospital and had this near-death experience that, like, very, very vivid experience, interacting with his father, like, just beyond anything that he would have ever comprehended, and came back with a completely different perspective on life and death and, like, what this is, and that there is something else. There's something out there. And people that have had near-death experiences or died and been resuscitated, they come back with the same fucking story over and 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 over again. There's not a lot of variation. There's different interpretations of what they're seeing, but it all fits within the same framework. It all fits within a framework that there's something there.
Did you see the video of this kid like a couple weeks ago?
No.
He's having a wild experience where he sees Jesus, he sees his dead father.
Come on, man.
Says it's beautiful.
Why is this kid?
I miss my mom. My hair case.
I think he was sick and he's coming out of surgery. I don't know the exact story on what was happening to him.
Jesus.
This video goes on long. It's a 10-minute video, but
whoa.
He's in a dream. He's dreaming.
Yeah, he's dreaming all right.
Yeah.
He's seeing into the next realm.
Yeah.
I want this hot chicken.
Yeah.
Well,
crazy.
You could dismiss that. You could dismiss that if you wanted to.
Yeah, you can, man. But look, man, I don't even need all these signs and wonders. Like, I don't even need all that, man. I mean, it's great when you get the opportunity to witness things like I got to witness with my friend, Mr. Don, and just see his faith and see that the Word manifest power in him. Like, it's great when you get to see it, but you can get too carried away with all that stuff too. You know what I mean? It's like, I I don't know, man. You know, I'm wondering, Joe, if the Almighty ain't calling you.
Calling me how? On the phone?
Calling you, man.
What do you mean? In what way?
I'm just wondering.
Herbert Walker was the guy that Hal Puthoff and a bunch of these scientists, he brought them together and said, we have recovered a crashed UFO on more than one occasion, and we have a back engineering program, and we're considering disclosure to the American people. I want you to list the positives, the positive impact of society, and the negatives.
Yeah.
And they did it with quite a few different scientists, and they all had more negatives than positive.
If they came out with this information,
Exactly.
to share this information, what would be
Exactly.
the effect on society?
Yes.
More
And
negatives than positives.
More negatives than positives.
Because?
Disruption of religion, government,
How does
economy.
that disrupt religion?
Well, I mean, it
I
depends on your
understand
religion.
how it does. I just don't.
Depends on your religion, you know, and depends on where these things are from and what is happening. What do we know?
In the Bible, Ezekiel has golden chariots from the sky.
Exactly. Yeah, and a wheel within a wheel. Yeah, the Ezekiel stuff sounds like a UFO encounter. And it's not the only version of that in ancient texts. In the ancient Hindu texts, they have Vimana, these things that are flying through the sky. Like, what are those things? You know, in the Rig Veda, even in the Bhagavad Gita, there's all these depictions of these things that sound like you're talking about a spaceship or at the very least some kind of technology. Like this thing about the Nephilim, like that the gods mated with women and created men who are monstrous. Boy, doesn't that sound like aliens came down and genetically manipulated primates and created human beings? That's a version of it that you could imply from the text. It's all really weird stuff, man. Like really weird. If you found out that was all true, it would probably change everything about society. And this is what Herbert Walker and those guys decided after. So Hal Puthoff was explaining it to me on the podcast, like how they put a numerical value to each thing. I'm like, like we were that close?
Right.
Like imagine if that happened. This is 1990, right?
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but these kind of really weird things, as you put them, they excite you more than they give you fear. Would that be fair?
Yeah. I mean,
you seem excited. You get excited about different possibilities.
Yes.
I mean, you know, I have people go, oh, man, no, Rogan loves these conspiracy theories. Like, I don't see him liking the conspiracy theories. I see him always being interested in an alternate way something went down and being interested and excited about that, but not going, no, never disengaging from it and going, no way, no, because I believe how it was and what I read, and that's how it is. That's not where you're moving from.
No, it's never a denial of information and facts. And it's also a recognition that oftentimes a large swath of society just goes with a narrative without having any real understanding of what the actual facts behind it are. And then there's that term, this pejorative term, conspiracy theory. The problem with that, calling someone a conspiracy theorist, is conspiracies are real. Like, there's a lot of evidence. And if you want to sit down, I could fucking show you a ton of them. And so anybody who says, like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, I'm like, okay, let's talk about conspiracies. Like, do you think that any of them exist? Do you think that people conspire? Is it like it's a natural part of human behavior that's been documented throughout history, even in governments? I mean, literally the thing that got us into the Vietnam War was a conspiracy. It was fake. The Gulf of Tonkin, it was a false flag operation. It never took place at all. They lied to the American people. That's a conspiracy. Like, that's just one conspiracy that turns out to be true. There's a lot of them. The problem is people don't want to look like a conspiracy theorist. They've done such a good job of making it a goofy term that you don't ever want to attach to you. It can cause damage to your reputation. If you're in a job where people have to take you seriously, fortunately I'm not, but if you're in a job where people have to take you seriously, you don't want to say anything weird like, hey, I think aliens are real. Like, people think you're a kook, and then they discount your opinion on everything.
Yeah.
But if you just know the actual facts, like people that don't think there's anything, that aliens are real, there's no way, we're alone, we've never been contacted.
Why not?
Gary Nolan, the guy who was on here yesterday that was talking about cancer research, he was also telling us about a piece of wreckage they found from a craft. Was it 1950 that they found it? Which one? The first one, the Silica one. So they have direct chain of possession of this evidence from, I believe it was 1950. and it was almost pure silica, and the magnesium ratios were so off that he said that this magnesium had to have been sourced from a place that experienced a neutron bomb every 2 minutes for 900 years. That's how off the isotopes were to magnesium that we find here on Earth. He's like, I'm not saying it's impossible for someone to ever do that, but I'm saying this is from 1950. Like, this is a real piece of what they're saying is a wreckage of a craft. And it has a material composition that is impossible for a normal person to create in 1950. So what the fuck is this?
Right.
And you say that to people, and they're like, oh. So Gary Nolan, who's a professor at Stanford, he's a professor in the what is his forensics? Is that what his he does cancer research? But what is his actual title? Stanford School of Medicine professor. Anyway, rock solid credentials, published. And people brought him this material, and they said, would you analyze this? Because you know all these different scientists. And endowed chair, Department of Pathology, Stanford School of Medicine. So when a guy like that is saying, no, this is a composition of this piece of wreckage that you can't make here.
Right.
They found a type of alloy that doesn't exist on Earth, and it has on an atomic level layers upon layers of whatever this alloy is. He's like, this cost billions of dollars to create, and they found it in 1970. Like in 1970, no one had this. It's not possible to make. Like maybe you can make it today, but we don't have the equipment to make it today. You could conceive how someone with enough resources could have that money today to do something like that, but it would be an enormous undertaking.
Yeah.
And this is a piece of craft that someone found from 1976. So when a guy like that is telling you, like, I'm not saying what it is, I'm not saying where it's from, but I'm saying this is fucking crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't add up to what we could practically do.
But the question is, like, why would we assume that it's a biological entity? It doesn't have any windows. It's this round thing that looks like a Tic Tac. If there is some sort of advanced propulsion system, some revolutionary way of moving through space and time that the U.S. government has developed, in some Black Ops program, that seems very likely impossible. That seems more likely than aliens visiting us. But there's more than one incident, and there's a lot of these things. And the possibility of alien life in the universe, although we've never experienced it, seems rational. It seems very rational. And if you were going to study an emerging civilization that is both primitive and warlike and yet insanely technologically advanced to the point where they have nuclear weapons, they can transmit video through the sky, they have propaganda, they have tracking of their citizens, like that's us. That's us right now. And while we are these territorial primal beings with fucking nuclear weapons, this would be a good time to start exposing yourself.
Yes.
And to stop this nonsense.
Insanity.
Yeah. And look, the reason why we named the rooms at our club Fat Man and Little Boy is because in UFO lore, that's when they started showing up. After the detonation of the atomic bombs in Japan, that's when the UFO sightings ramped up.
And they ramped up mostly in the U.S., right?
Yes.
So that's interesting because the U.S. was the nuclear power. So.
And we were the one who was doing a lot of fucking testing.
Yeah.
And also we have all these military bases. Who the fuck has more military bases than us?
No one.
Who has more nuclear weapons pointed at other people than us? We have them all over the place. And there's all these multiple sightings and eyewitness accounts of like very credible people who say these things have hovered over military bases.
It'd be pretty cool if these aliens were benevolent overlords and they were like, hey, my children.
Yeah. Or maybe even so advanced intellectually that the concept of an overlord is preposterous, and they're just biological management. There's just the gardeners tending to make sure the weeds don't get out of hand and just like let this process continue to play itself out, because this process of technological innovation it's the everything that humans do.
Yeah.
It's what we do at the pinnacle of our creation is we make better technology.
Well, I always wonder about fractals and whether or not like this idea of this being a simulation, this being, like we are kind of replicating, we are creating machines and doing our best to create them in our own image, right?
Yes.
And that's interesting. That's because the mythologies that we subscribe to are the idea that this God that we pray to made us in his image. Right. And we're doing the same thing now with robots and computers. And that's an interesting thing that we seem to have this sort of paradigm, this idea that's the scaffolding for the way we think, right? And to what end? And why are we doing that?
Maybe it's the
and has
creation
it
of a
already
new life
happened?
form.
But has it already happened? Are we the result of that impulse that happened a long time ago?
I think we
I don't
are
know.
the shit-throwing chimps that are going to become the nuclear physicists.
That's what
we
I'm-
are the shit-throwing chimps from 2001 that
Yeah.
become Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think this thing that we become is integrated with technology. It's probably some sort of a hybrid. It's some sort of a cyborg.
That's wild.
Because I think we're already like on the verge of merging. You know, all this talk of like Neuralink and all these various things. We watched this video the other day of this guy who is Googling questions and getting answers in his head with his headpiece on that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Incredible. Right? So how long before that is like that's Pong?
I know. But that's
And then you have the Unreal 4 engine in 2023 that looks like a movie.
No.
Like how long before that technology gets to the point where it's just supremely advanced and we literally are like gods.
But my question really is also the idea that that's engineering, right? That's a tool.
It's innovation.
But there's engineering. So there are two aspects to it. One is getting information faster and stuff, which doesn't get you closer to truth, but it gets you information faster. There are endless facts. But more importantly, I always wonder, like, why we are given this. I really believe that human potential is pretty much infinite. Whatever you can imagine and beyond, we can do. And we are doing. We seem to be doing this. Like, think about how crazy that is. I can wear a headset and I can do things with my mind and look up the answer.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's magic. It's crazier than magic. But there's a way to measure that and quantify that and replicate that. So it's not magic. I can do it and I can tell you exactly how I get there, which is even crazier. So what is that leading us to? It is nudging us closer. It's like I think it's very significant that we're getting a better understanding of what it's like to be someone else.
Yeah.
We are. It's really hard to say that Yanomamo Indian or whoever it might be thinks about things differently than I do when I know so much about how all these human beings, like someone in Iran, someone in Jordan, laughs and cries and bleeds at the same thing I do. You know, it's being prejudiced based on what that person looks like over there is becoming harder and harder to justify. Where it was before we knew about that, we were like, well, those people over there are quote unquote savages or they're this, that, and the other thing. And I do think that we are getting a better understanding of what it's like to be each other and being nudged in the same direction. I'm not saying we don't become tribal.
I think that's true too.
But why? And it's interesting to think about where that's leading us to what understanding, and then when we have that understanding, what are we going to do about that?
Right, and are we going to pull it together? And are the aliens here to make sure that we don't fuck it up?
Yeah.
That's the beautiful idea. The terrible idea is that it's all us. And then it's all a big ruse, and it's all just drones that we're doing because we don't want China and Russia to know about it. But we have insane propulsion systems that operate on gravity and
yeah, I think it is us. I hate to tell you.
It seems like both. It seems like us, and it also seems like there's some shit that we just don't understand. And I don't know if those people are telling the truth. Because if the people that are telling the truth that there's biological entities, and this is what Jackie Gleason said that Nixon told him, and Nixon took him on they were drinking. You know that famous story?
No.
Who knows if it's true? It's a legend. But the legend is that Jackie Gleason and Nixon were drinking, and that Nixon said, "You want to see some fucking aliens?" And they get on Air Force One, and they fly to some Air Force base, and they go to a place where they have a crashed UFO, and they have biological beings that are in freezers. And Jackie Gleason sees this. And Jackie Gleason, after that, has a house built in upstate New York that looks like a UFO. He became obsessed with UFOs after that. There was a house, it was actually for sale at one point in time. Yeah, so he has this house that he had shaped like a UFO. And this is like, who knows if this is a true story?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, it was kind of sort of disputed. His ex-wife told the story or something like that. I forget.
I think that kind of thing is actually impossible to keep secret?
No, I don't think so.
Really?
No, I don't
you
think so at all. Yeah.
generations of government bureaucrats can keep something a secret?
Sure,
I don't
they
think so.
tell the people at the very highest level know about it. It's very few people. It's all very compartmentalized.
they're always-
They monitor everyone's phone calls, everyone's emails, everything everyone does.
Impossible.
At a top secret clearance level,
No way. Impossible.
I don't think you're right.
Totally
You're
impossible.
definitely not right.
I think it's impossible.
Listen, man, they can keep secrets.
When?
People
Which
at high
ones?
levels of military can keep secrets.
Yeah, but they're
People
always
that-
rotating out. They're retiring. They're dying.
Yeah, they probably wind up fucking Hillary Clinton and a lot of those dudes.
Hey, listen, dude. This is not the.
That's a
this is not
verb.
Conspiracy Social Club.
It
This
might
is
as
the
well
Joe
be.
Rogan.
I'm not willing to relinquish the idea that they could keep that secret.
Well, that's 'cause it's
I think
fun to
it's-
believe in.
Yeah, but it's not just fun to believe in. It is possible. It's a physically possible thing to do, especially if you have the right people and they're indoctrinated in the right way with top secret clearance. And by the way, it's not like these people don't tell their friends, and it's not like there's a bunch of stories floating around, because there
Right.
are. There's a shitload of stories.
That's what I'm
floating
saying.
around.
But why would you like? I would never keep that a secret. I'd be like, hey,
Well,
hey,
here's-
you got
but here's
fucking
the thing.
aliens.
Here's the thing. When you have senators and congressmen who find out about this, and they find out that military contractors are the ones who have access to this stuff, because the back engineering program has to involve someone who has the capability of recreating this. So who would that be? That would be the people that make jets. If you got someone who's making you a stealth bomber, and you have a crashed UFO, those are the people that you want discussing like what kind of things you've recovered from a fucking alien crash, and can this be replicated?
No, here's the problem with your
I mean,
whole
don't
theory.
you know me, motherfucker? Because you don't
man,
know. You might be
this
wrong.
Is you're wrong. No,
No, no, no.
this is
Don't say you're wrong,
this is
because
the
you don't
problem.
know that
This
I'm
is the
wrong.
problem with your theory. Ready?
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and I love that you want to believe in this, and so do I. But here's the problem.
Okay.
There's no law. There's no written law that says I'm not allowed to talk about aliens. And I mean at the top levels of clearance, like the most secret level. There is no world where if I'm a government official and I take a bunch of pictures and I come before Congress and I go, here's my evidence, I'm blowing the whistle, there are real aliens.
You don't think they would go after you for
I'd never go to jail.
violating your top secret clearance?
No, because it's not violating my top secret clearance.
But it would
because,
be.
Nope.
I don't
Because
think
I'd,
you're
I'd
right.
never go to jail for that. Because I'd be like, you're going to put me in jail for exposing what everybody wants to know? The whole world would be like, holy shit, you guys kept
But
this a
that's
secret?
assuming that you have access to that material to extract
There are enough
it
people who
from
would.
wherever maybe not. Maybe those are the kind of people that wouldn't do that, Brian.
Listen,
You
my
fucking
friend.
communist. I don't like the way you think.
I'm shredding your UFO
No,
theories.
you're not.
Listen,
You think you are, but you're just using these establishment.
You're allowed to talk
points.
about
You
UFOs
sound
and you
like
never
your
get in
dad.
trouble.
You sound like your dad.
Come on, man. First,
You're
tell me
a
Andy Schultz will
CIA
beat me up.
stooge.
And,
You're a CIA
I'll call my dad
stooge,
right now.
And you're in here spreading propaganda to the faithful listeners.
listen to
of
me.
this
Listen to me. There are no aliens, and if there are, we'd know about it.
They supposedly do have something that crashed, and they supposedly do have biological entities that are on ice somewhere. This is according to these whistleblowers that work for the government. And now we're talking about it. I just don't know what's real. It's hard to know. And you talk about it, you feel like a moron, because it's like...
There's got to be something out there. Okay, we got to assume there's something out there. Whether or not, I don't even know.
Right, but should we assume that something's been here?
Yeah.
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 I think so.
Yeah, they've been here.
Well, I would come here if I was from somewhere else, and I was like, what? Imagine if you're like from some super advanced civilization that's completely abandoned war. There's no thievery. Everybody reads everybody's minds. There's no unfairness because they've worked all that stuff out, and it's just superior intellect because everybody's evolved for 1 million years past where we are now. And you get the opportunity to see what a breakthrough civilization looks like, right when they're figuring out nuclear power, right when they're figuring out flight and war and cell phones and shit like that. Like, that would be like you and I going back and going and visiting the real Wild West, like being in a gold mining town in 1830. You know how nuts that would be? You know how fucking crazy. Be one of the minor 49ers in 1849, going all the way to San Francisco, and these fucking animals stabbing each other in saloons. Like, you know what that would be like?
That's insane.
The kind of barbarians that took a chance with wooden wheels getting pulled by a horse and went across mountain ranges to try to get to the gold. That would be like us going to visit that. Of course we would visit that. Of course. Like, if you had a chance to see what it would like to see Christopher Columbus land in the Bahamas, to see what that must have been like, of course you would want to see it. If you could go literally back in time and see primitive humans, Well, if they're just like us, but they're like us millions of years from now, of course they would want to visit us. It would be so interesting. You imagine if there was a planet where we could go, where we could see cavemen?
We go.
Would you imagine?
Fucking Musk would get us in an hour.
Yeah.
But it's...
Well, you can see guys making fucking arrowheads with flint for the first time and strapping them to sticks, giant fucking heads and big teeth, covered in hair, just figuring out tools. Oh, my God. We would be fascinated by those people.
The way I think about it is, listen, since I'm a kid, we're talking about Martians and aliens, right? Since I'm fucking 6, 7, I've been hearing about this. The moon landing was in '69, so I was 6. So it started after that. Like, I heard more and more about it. So what you mean to tell me is in 55 years we haven't found out more information about it? We know. We know what's going on. We know. NASA's not stupid. They know something's out there. They play with us a little bit from time to time. But there's something out there, my friend.
I think so, too.
There's something out there.
I think the other problem with the president knowing, can they keep things from the president? Of course they can. The president is only there for 4 years. And then he has to get in there again. And if he wins, he's only there for 4 more years. These fucking people have 30-year careers, 50-year careers in the intelligence agencies.
They know.
If they know something, and they've known something since, fucking Gerald Ford, why would they tell you? Why do you need to know?
And
We've already been hiding this from the population for so long.
And those old-timers didn't need what's that when you have to sign something?
NDA?
NDA, like NAD, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, there was no NDAs back then.
There's no NDAs back then, so there was something to it.
Yeah.
There was something to it. You got that place in New Mexico. You got Hudson County, what we discussed before, with the Martians landing. You have all these places that have a higher volume. I wonder what's number 2 in UFO sightings.
I wonder what's number 1. What's number 1? Is it Hudson Valley?
Yeah, Hudson Valley by the George Washington Bridge, that whole thing.
That's crazy.
That's number 1. Them. I wonder what number 2, number 3, and number 4 is.
It's interesting that a lot of them are over near where the ocean is. Because that's one of the big theories, that they have bases in the ocean. Because the reality of the ocean is no one's looking. If you have something on Earth, satellites can see it. Like if you have something that's in the middle of Nevada, in some deserted area, and you have buildings, satellites can see that. They can see the structures. So you have to hide them. But if you have something in the ocean, nobody sees anything. We've only explored, what is the percentage of the ocean floor that we have just explored? I think it's like 10%. I think it's somewhere around 10, maybe 20%. So that means that 80% of the ocean floor is undiscovered. We have no idea what's down there. And it's, a mile, 2 miles deep in some spots. If you're from a super sophisticated civilization that's millions of light years away, and you can come here instantaneously, and you have the ability to traverse in these what they call transmedium craft, which means they can go through air, go through water. It creates a gravity bubble around it and go through everything. That's what they think these things are doing. That's what they can go 500 knots underwater. Just like nothing we have could do that. And if they have bases under the ocean, it makes sense that these sightings are all near the ocean. It just totally makes sense.
A lot happens in the ocean. That ocean's stronger than what you fucking think.
Yeah.
I love going to a beach and just sitting on the beach and watching the ocean.
2030.
Seabed 2030, what they've mapped out?
They've gotten 30% mapped. They're trying to get the whole thing done by 2030.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Oh, what if they find a base?
Yeah. So
what if they get down there and they find bases? What is all that stuff? What are those lines?
I'm guessing that's where they probably sent their drones. Probably.
Oh.
Looks like a pool scrubber. It
wow.
just
goes. That's crazy.
Holy shit.
So they're scouring the ocean floor to try to get them. That's why the aliens are going to come out. Wow, that's Hawaii. Whoa.
Oh, that's not Hawaii. Hawaii's over here.
It is?
Yeah.
What's that? What are those islands in the middle? Oh, is that Catalina?
And shit, yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh, you were zoomed in.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to see what this stuff is.
Oh, I see.
I think these little light-colored brown spots are what's sticking up, and the rest of it's underneath.
You paying attention at all to 3-Eye Atlas? Are you watching
there's the comet?
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I can say is like, look, if I was aware of any evidence of aliens, Joe, you have my word. I will come on your show, and I will reveal it on the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, it's a pretty good deal.
I believe you. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
I'll stick. I keep my promises. So,
all right.
Yeah,
I'll hold you to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm never committing suicide. To be clear,
I don't think you would
Also,
either.
on camera, guys, I am never committing suicide ever.
If someone says you committed suicide, I will fight tooth and nail.
Thank you.
I will fight tooth and
Thank
nail.
you.
I will
Thanks,
not
brother.
believe it. I will not believe it. The thing about the 3-eye atlas is
That's
it's
a hell of a
weird.
name, actually.
Yeah, it's a third.
It sounds like
interstellar.
Third Eye or something.
Yeah, it does. 3-eye is third. It's only the third interstellar object that's detected.
Okay.
Yeah, Avi Loeb.
The Third Eye Atlas.
Yeah, Avi Loeb was on the podcast a couple days ago talking about it.
Yeah,
And,
it could be aliens. I don't know, but
apparently today
yeah.
they're saying that it's changed course.
Did
you see that, Jamie? Avi Loeb said something today. I'll send it to you. I know it's on Reddit. Here you go, Jamie. I'll send it to you right now. It's fascinating. It's fascinating also because it's made almost entirely of nickel, whatever it is. And
Yeah.
the only way that exists here is industrial alloys, apparently.
There are definitely comets and asteroids that are made primarily of nickel. In fact,
really?
Yeah. So the places where you mine nickel on Earth is actually where there was an asteroid or comet that hit Earth that was a nickel-rich.
Wow, and it left
nickel-rich
a giant
meteorite.
nickel-rich deposit?
Yeah, that's it's coming. Those are from impacts. So you definitely didn't want to be there at the time because anything would have been obliterated.
Right.
But that's where the sources of nickel and cobalt are these days.
So this is Avi Loeb. A few hours ago, the first hint of non-gravitational acceleration, that something other than gravity is affecting its acceleration, meaning something is affecting its trajectory beyond gravity, was indicated. Interesting. Dun, dun, dun. So it's mostly nickel, very little iron, which he was saying is on Earth, it only exists in alloys. But whatever, you're dealing with another planet.
There are cases where there's very nickel-rich asteroids, meteorites that
And
have
that's what it is,
have
for something from space.
Yeah, it's only it doesn't mean it'll be a very sort of heavy spaceship if you make it all out of nickel.
Oh yeah, and
so-
fucking huge, the size of Manhattan, and all nickel. That's kind of nuts.
Yeah, that's a heavy spaceship.
That's a real problem if it hits.
Yes. No, it would like obliterate a continent type of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe worse.
Yeah, probably kill most of human life, if not all of us.
I haven't looked. It depends on what the total mass is, but there's. I mean, the thing is, like in the fossil record, there are, there's like arguably 5 major extinction events. Like the biggest one of which is the Permian extinction, where almost all life was eliminated. That actually occurred over several million years. There's the Jurassic. I think Jurassic is. I think that one's pretty definitively an asteroid. But there's been 5 major extinction events. But what they don't count are really the ones that merely take out a continent. So
merely,
yeah, because those don't really show up on the fossil record,
Right.
So unless it's enough to cause a mass extinction event throughout Earth, it doesn't show up on in a fossil record that's 200 million years old. So but there've been many impacts that would have sort of destroyed all life on let's say half of North America or something like that. There are many such impacts through the course of history.
Yeah, and there's nothing we can do about it right now.
Yeah, there was one that one that hit Siberia and destroyed, I think, a few hundred square miles.
Oh, that's the Tunguska.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the one from the 1920s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that coincides with that meteor, that comet storm that we go through every June and every November that they think is responsible for that Younger Dryas impact. Yeah. All that shit's crazy. Do you hear about that fucking object that's hurtling towards Earth at like 130,000 miles an hour?
No, that might solve all our problems.
Some intergalactic object that's hurt. There's this guy, Avi Loeb. He's a professor at Harvard that believes it might be an alien probe.
Wow.
And he was talking about the odds of this thing being in the trajectory that it is, entering into our solar system in a direct path with Earth. The odds are extremely low. And at the place where it's doing it, it's when the Earth is the opposite side of the sun, so it's coming from behind the sun. And it's so it makes it difficult to detect. And that this object is in a direct line to come to Earth in 2027.
Do they have a trajectory of where it's going to land?
I don't think they totally know that yet. I think they're trying to calculate whether or not it's actually going to hit Earth or come near Earth or pass by Earth or what it is. Like
why do they think it's an alien satellite or whatever?
Well, there's this guy, Avi Loeb, this professor that I'm discussing. He also had an analysis of another object that passed by Earth a few years back that they named, and they said that this thing had a very bizarre metallic sort of a look to it that he did not think, based on the shape of it and the way it was traveling, that it was natural. So he thought that that could have been some sort of an alien craft as well. I don't know. It's too fun. It's too fun.
But as it gets closer, we could probably decipher.
Scientists give chilling update on mysterious interstellar object racing through our solar system as they warn it's even bigger than we thought. Provide a chilling update on a mysterious interstellar object that's racing through our solar system. Using data from the Vera C. Rubin Observatory, experts have revealed just how big the object dubbed 31 Atlas really is. According to their analysis, the object measures roughly 7 miles in diameter. Holy fuck. How big is New York City? Bigger than Mount Everest, making it the largest interstellar object ever spotted. Professor Avi Loeb, theoretical physicist and cosmologist from Harvard University, suggested the object could be an alien spacecraft. However, not everyone is convinced. Chris Lintott, an astronomer at the University of Oxford, told Live Science any suggestion that it's artificial is nonsense on stilts. He added that these claims are an insult to the exciting work going on to understand this object. But Harvard's legit, and Avi Loeb is a legit astronomer.
Right. I mean, let's not rule anything out.
Yeah.
As it gets closer.
There's something about it, about the way it's traveling, that it's bizarre. But it doesn't have a trail like a comet does.
Right.
We can scroll up a little so I can see that. The images of the comet were actually snapped by the Vera C. Rubin before it was officially discovered. However, since it was identified on July 1st, just a little bit ago, scientists have scoured back through data to find out more about the mysterious object. New study published on RXIV, whatever that is. More than 200 researchers have confirmed the likely size of the comet's main body, known as its nucleus. Their analysis suggests the nucleus has a radius of around 3.5 miles. That translates to a diameter or width of about 7 miles. To put that in perspective, bigger than Mount Everest, twice the size of Mount Kilimanjaro. Fuck.
That Honeymoon was way smaller.
Wow. Yeah, so the, how do you say it?
Oumuamua, I think.
Oumuamua, discovered in 2017. He came on and talked to us about that. Was believed to be around 0.2 miles wide. And comet Borisov, discovered in 2019, was roughly 1 kilometer wide. So this thing is fucking huge. Yeah. So, previously speaking to Mail Online, Professor Loeb pointed out that its impressive speed of 130,000 miles per hour as an indication that it might be controlled by aliens. He said it's difficult to imagine a natural process that would favor a plunge towards the inner solar system at 60 kilometers per second, he said. An alternative is that the object targets the inner solar system by some technological design. Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Well, hopefully they come in peace.
Well, that might be the end of the Earth. Maybe that's like they realize like that's when AI starts to take over and they think it's chaos. So like that's when it's going to happen. So let's just like launch a 7-mile wide thing into the Earth and just start all over again like the dinosaurs.
Well, that you're saying it hits and then our AI fights it?
No.
Or it
wipes out. The AI takes over, and it's like, this isn't going to work, so it wipes it out. Just like when the dinosaurs were here, the dinosaurs were too powerful, and they're like, yeah, let's just fucking start from scratch. Maybe that's how they like reset the game.
Huh. And then, so humanity is wiped out?
Everything's wiped out. Yeah, we start fresh with new organisms. And then they come along and do genetic engineering, just like they did with us and monkeys, and create a new version of humans, but this time it's a little less territorial, a little more inquisitive, a little more interested in innovation, a little less interested in dominating and controlling resources. Because that's what fucked us. Territorial apes get high technology and use territorial behavior to defend and acquire resources, and that creates war. Did you see that fucking dude? There's a dude who, this is a crazy story. Mr. Ballin and Tom Segura was on Mr. Ballin, and Mr. Ballin explained this thing that happened. I forget what year it was.
It's in the 70s, I think.
Okay, so this Mexican pilot was flying, and in the middle of his flying, he got confused. He didn't know what the fuck happened. He fell asleep, and he woke up, and he was over the ocean. And he's like, how did I get over the ocean? This doesn't even make any sense. And the amount of gas that was missing from his plane didn't make any sense that he was able to get this far. And what they're saying, and there's a recording of this, is that this guy went into a trance and was channeling some alien intelligence that was explaining through this guy's voice that the human race is the only intelligent race in the universe that still uses war and still kills people and engages in large-scale conflict and has nuclear weapons, and that they have to stop doing this or that someone's going to step in. It's a crazy story. Play the story.
Someone's going to step in?
Could we play it? Some of it?
I don't know.
Just to give credit to Mr. Ballin?
I'll try. Well, now I have to find the video. I was looking for that.
Well, everybody should just go to it. If you just tell me how to go to it, I'll just drive people to see it.
His Instagram account with Tom, but he's got a really good YouTube channel too, where he goes into all sorts of wild stories like this.
Yeah, but this was a great one. And then there's an actual audio recording of this guy saying this. Here, I'll send you the audio recording, Jamie. If you can't find it real quick. I sent it to Tom. After I saw Tom on the show, I was like, I go, that's fucking crazy, man. And he's like, dude, wild. And then I sent him this. I said, did you know there's an actual recording that you can listen to of the guy saying this? So if you go like halfway into it, you got it? Oh, you got it. Okay. So a certain distance into it, you hear the guy talking in this very bizarre monotone Spanish. Was there a UFO? Like, why did they show that UFO, that fake UFO?
Making a video to watch to keep you interested on YouTube.
Oh, keep me interested. I'll be interested anyway.
Here it is.
Yeah, let me hear it. He is speaking, but he does not know. The equipment is too primitive. This is the only way to convey. Lower that a little. A microphone. The equipment is too primitive. This is the only way to convey their message. After almost an hour, the beings would release the young aviator pilot from his hypnotic state and return control of the plane so that he could receive instructions. And at the same time, he managed to land at the Acapulco airport. Interesting. You know, that's the thing. Like, if there was a unique event where something happened and an alien race did interact with human beings and then never again, no one would believe you, even if it was real. If it was that's the problem with like unique events. We base reality on what we experience and what everybody else experiences on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
What we have evidence of. But if something happened that was completely unique like that, where they said, like, this is the only way we can communicate. Their equipment is too primitive.
Right.
We'll just take over this guy's mind and have
Right.
him say it. Like, who was ever going to believe that?
I guess that's the quote translated.
Okay, the alien message that spoke through Rafael Pacheco Perez to the air traffic controller, it says, he speaks because he is ordered to. That is, it is his voice he speaks, but not of his own free will. We use it as a microphone. No matter who we are or where we come from, it is enough for you to know that we are beings of this universe where you belong. Our planet is many light years away, but we are physically equal. I repeat that all races in the universe are physically equal. You are not alone in the universe, and there are other races that are far away from you, and we are watching you. But he said more than that.
No, for sure.
What is the full extent of his quote? Because he said something about you're the only race that still engages in warfare. I want to believe it. I want to believe it so bad.
I don't. I definitely think there's other life forms out there.
I do
and
too,
they're
but I
more
don't know what
advanced.
really happened.
Yeah.
I really wish I knew. I mean, I really
But this
wish I
guy
knew.
did fall asleep while he was flying a plane, so can we really trust him?
Right, and he did wake up over the ocean. But if he did wake up over the ocean, it doesn't make sense that he got over the ocean, if that's true.
Right.
Explain that. Like, how did he get there?
Yeah.
What'd you do? Did you take over the plane, move it with your spaceship? Why'd you put him over the ocean? So if he crashed, he wouldn't kill anybody?
Right.
Why'd you do that? Like, what is all this?
And what's the thing with the gas being gone?
Right. Because I guess they, like, picked it up and took it.
Huh.
I don't know. We are watching you. What else does it say? To everyone's surprise. Issued a certificate stating he was in perfect health and had not consumed any drugs. It ruined his career, and he never piloted a plane again. Wow.
This is his first solo flight, too.
Whoa. Imagine your first solo flight. You're like, I am going to pull a fucking gag on these motherfuckers. I got an idea. I got some extra gas.
That was 1976?
Yeah.
Wow. No, I don't know if I believe that account, but I do believe that there's other life forms out there.
My problem is I want to believe that account. That's always the problem with all these things. I want to believe. I want to believe so bad that I don't think about them rationally sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, these stories are all, it's like whether you trust the source or not, but
what would you do, though?
The universe is too big for us to be the only ones here.
Oh, for sure.
And I don't care that Mars doesn't have any water. Maybe they don't need water.
Well, they think Mars used to have a full atmosphere. And do you know that there's structures on Mars that they've observed even recently that look like perfect squares that are huge?
Huh.
There's this one that I showed to Elon. I go, what is that? Tell me what do you think that is? Like, well, we should probably go there and look around. Like, yeah, we should probably go there and look around.
He's the guy to do it.
But what is, like, he didn't want to say what he thought it was, but I'm looking at him like, do you think this could have been at one point in time a structure? Because it has perfect right angles and it's a square and it's huge.
Right.
They said it's at least hundreds of meters across, but it might be miles across. It's rough estimates, but they know it's large. Have you seen it? Jamie will show it to you. But it's like a literal square. There's a bunch of shit that's weird there. That's like the face on Mars, but I'm not totally convinced about that. But that one's nuts. Like, that's kind of crazy. Didn't that look kind of crazy?
It's on the right?
Yeah. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That looks like a fucking square.
Oh, yeah, that looks like a foundation.
I mean, tell me what the fuck that is. What is that?
Right.
That does not look normal. Those angles don't look normal at all. That lower left-hand corner, like, what is that? And then the fact that it's roughly a square. I mean, I don't know if it's a square or a rectangle. It seems like it's a little taller than it is wide.
Right.
But whatever it is, it looks like a fucking structure, man. It's weird.
Well, just because we can't exist there doesn't mean other life forms can't exist there.
Or other life forms used to exist there.
Right.
Like, imagine if there was, like, if there's life on Earth right now, today, and if Mars at one point in time had a sustainable atmosphere, like millions and millions of years ago, what if there was life on Mars? What if we are the offspring of the life on Mars? What if those fucking guys just realized, like, hey, this place is falling apart. Let's shoot over to Earth and reestablish.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be why we're so different than every other primate that's here.
I never thought about it like that. That might be true. I just think it's so vast and we know so little about everything, it's possible. That's just I kind of like broaden it that way, where it's like, it's all possible. The universe is infinite and we know very little about it.
Yeah, it's totally possible.
Yeah.
It's just not likely. I mean, it seems, because you haven't seen anything. Like, it's not likely.
But we're trying to use our logical brains to figure out. It's like, could this be possible? It's like, there's so much we don't know. And we have such a limited scope with our human minds to even comprehend stuff. So it's like, I don't know.
What are your thoughts on alien life, on life outside of this planet? Is this something you think about?
Yeah, I think there must be. Even in the solar system, I would not be surprised if we find microbes on Mars or on some of the moons of Jupiter or Saturn where there's liquid water.
Like Europa.
Yeah. And the reason is, that if you think about, the reason I think that, and it's a guess, is because if you look at the history of life on Earth, then, so Earth formed and it was just there was no life. It was a ball of rock. And almost as soon as it cooled down, we see evidence of life. So certainly 3.8 billion years ago, possibly even further back than that, we see evidence of life on Earth. So somewhere along the line, geochemistry, active geochemistry, became biochemistry on Earth. And we have some idea, that if you get gradients of temperature and acid and alkaline and the conditions that are naturally present on the surface of oceans, then complex carbon chemistry spontaneously happens. So we know that life, almost certainly we know that life began on Earth. I mean, the other option is it came from space or something like that, but it probably didn't. Right? It probably began on Earth. So that means that at least here, that happened. And that we know that the conditions that led to the origin of life on Earth were present on Mars 4 billion years ago. And we know that they're present on Europa today. So I don't see that there's anything special. Life is just chemistry. And the idea that geochemistry becomes biochemistry is not fanciful because it happened here. So I think that given the same conditions, it would be surprising to me if the same thing didn't happen, in that life begins. So that's to test that is one of the great frontiers of science now. It's one of the great challenges, which is why another reason we're interested in Mars, because we know those conditions were there. We know there were what's called hydrothermal vent systems on the floors of oceans on Mars 3.8 or 4 billion years ago. So it would be good to know if what I've said is right. And the way we find out is to find life or evidence of past life.
Are you aware of the speculation that was going around? How recent was it, that Occupy thing, the octopus eggs? There was a group of scientists that were speculating that it's panspermia, the idea of panspermia, that it's possible that octopi had come from somewhere else. Some frozen eggs had actually come from somewhere else and landed on Earth. And these were like legitimate scientists that were contemplating it, not morons.
I don't think...
Have you seen this?
No, I didn't. But I mean, I think it's unlikely. So panspermia doesn't have to be unlikely.
Right.
I mean, for example, you might have seen the other day we found an Earth rock on the moon.
Yes.
Right. Well, it's back on Earth now because the Apollo astronauts brought it back, didn't they? It's 4 billion years old or something like that.
One of the oldest rocks ever found.
Yeah.
Right.
So we know that material gets transferred between planets. And so it's not inconceivable that microbes could survive that journey. Right. We know that microbes can survive in space, for example. So that isn't mad. It's probably unlikely, but it's not mad. But with the octopus, I hadn't heard that. But the thing is that the octopus is still extremely similar biologically to us. I mean, the differences are negligible.
Yeah.
So it's still got the same energy system with the things like ATP and DNA and all that stuff. It's all very, very similar.
It was something about RNA and DNA. Did you find that article?
I'm looking at a different one from a different website. It's about the same thing. It has to do with the Cambrian explosion. And there were 33 authors on a paper that got published in the Progress in Biophysics and Molecular Biology that talked about this possibility. There are other people that disagree with it, though.
Right. I mean, I suppose I haven't seen it. So I think it's unlikely because the octopus is extremely similar to us. So that suggests a common origin to me. That I suppose the counter argument you could advance would be there's only one way to do life. So you could say that actually, because the laws of physics and chemistry are the same everywhere. So maybe DNA is the only way to do it. So that's the way it gets done.
Which is why they're so similar to us.
Yeah,
although so alien as well.
Yeah, they're not, though. You know, that's the thing about an octopus. That's why I'm surprised about it, because they're not that alien. They're very similar.
Well, they are in their abilities. I mean, their ability to transform their outer texture and their color almost instantaneously.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they have incredible camouflage abilities that really don't exist in the mammalian world.
Yeah, but on a cellular level, you look at an octopus cell under a microscope, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Right.
Between an octopus cell and a human cell.
So the only way that would make sense is if all life comes from basically the same kind of building blocks and just varies depending upon the conditions and where it takes place.
I'm guessing, but yes, that must be the only way you could sustain that, given that they're so similar to us, because they really are, biochemically, that's the only way it can be done, given the building block, the toolkit, the laws of nature and the elements and so on that we have in our universe.
We have so many different life forms on our planet, but if we found anything that's remotely similar to what we have here on Earth on another planet, it would be such an incredible discovery. Like if we found a frog on the moon, I mean, the world would stop, right?
I'd be very surprised if we found a frog on the moon.
But I mean, if we found anything anywhere that is in any way similar, an insect on Mars.
Well, this is... I mean, as I say, it'd be micro. I think it'd be single-celled things. And remember, I mean, you mentioned the Cambrian explosion. So that is what we do know about Earth is that although life began, let's say, 3.8 billion years ago, it wasn't until around 600 million years ago or so, or maybe at most 700, that you see any complex multicellular organisms at all. So for something like 3 billion years, it was single-celled alone. And that's one of the reasons why I would guess, if I had to guess, I would say that microbes would be common because life began very quickly on Earth. And I wouldn't be surprised if we find it on Mars. But complex life, multicellular life, insects, plants, intelligence, I would guess would be very rare because it took so long on Earth to get there. And it was just slime. About 3 billion years of slime. It was that was it.